Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Vardhan. So today's session is going to be about Selenium, right? I'm going to give you an introduction to what Selenium is all about, how relevant it is in today's market as an automation testing tool, what are its benefits, why it's actually the best automation testing tool, and I'll also clear a few of the doubts that a lot of people come and ask me. A lot of people ask me, should Selenium, why should they choose automation testing as a career? Why can they do it if they are not from a programming background? So these are the questions that are asked, and these are the questions which I'll also answer in today's session. Okay, so before I get started, I want to show you the agenda for today, and that is this. First, I'll start off by talking about what is the need for Selenium automation testing tool. Right, I'll talk about what was the basic reason, what are the problems with manual testing. And then I'll talk about what Selenium is. I'll go into more details about the different sort of tools that are there in Selenium. I'll give you more details. I will talk about what is the job opportunity with Selenium currently. And then, like I told you, I will talk about the actual people who can go for Selenium. Can everyone go for it? What background they need for Selenium, and those related questions. And finally, I will end today's session with a small demo. Right, it'll be a basic demo of how Selenium WebDriver works. So let me get started, and the whole concept of why Selenium is needed and what is the need for automation testing, I'm going to talk about that part with this slide. Okay, the problem statement. I'm going to present this problem statement. Let's consider that there is a web-based application for booking cabs. Okay, and if you have developed this this application, then you need to make sure that all the features in that application work perfectly, right? So let's say that we have an Uber or an Ola, which is very popular, and what would it have? It would have probably a Maps integration, right? A Google Maps integration. It would of course have a payment gateway, which is bug-free. Then it can have probably a profile settings tab, so where you can go and set your name, you can set your link your bank details, set your default address. A lot more details like this can be set over there. You can do that, and besides that, there are a few more options which you can do. This is just a web application where you can book cabs. Okay, but then look at any of the other dynamic web application that we have today. So take for example Facebook.com, which is an e-commerce site. Facebook, which is a social media platform, and then we have Amazon, which is which is an e-commerce site. Now in these places you have all these products which need to be which keep moving on a day-to-day basis, right? They come under the FMCG category, and they keep changing. And when we say changing, it means that they get updated very often, and during this process of being updated, it might happen sometimes that the links are broken or some functionalities stop working. So at that time, we cannot afford our customers to have a bad experience. So we have to make sure that they are tested end to end, right? So that is the reason for testing, first of all. But testing in general is not that easy, okay? And when I say testing, I'm talking about manual testing over here, where let's say there's a character here called Alice, okay? And she's a tester. She is testing the application, and she's finding it to be very hard and very tedious. Why? Because there are multiple components. There might be a tab which is displaying some image. Then you might have some part of the web page where there's a video which can be played, and then you might have links over there. You might have some text. You have all these things, and what happens is these applications which are dynamic, they also get updated very often, especially with the onset of this DevOps life cycle, where these applications, they have multiple releases. So the features are always incremented, right? So at that point of time, you might have the need to test your application probably every week, or run scripts even every day. So at that time, you cannot have manual testers doing that job for you, because the biggest problem is it's tough. Okay, it's going to be tedious, and most of all, the company has to bear a lot of cost for manpower. And to eliminate this problem is what automation testing does, right? What automation testing does is you can simply execute these scripts of whatever you want to test, and you can either execute those scripts in one machine, or you can scale it up and execute those tests in multiple machines parallelly. You can do that. And even the very fact of generating the results of those tests can be automated. So the moment a test case fails, you can automate that to come to you, and you'll be notified that failed, and you'll get to know which part of your code failed, and you'll get to know which which part of the code to fix. And you'll also get these reports automated and sent to your email or in any other way as per your preference. So automation testing is the future, and well, let's not say future because it's already being implemented in most of the places. This is something you people might know, right? But the question here is, why am I talking about Selenium? Why is today's session about Selenium and not about the other testing tools? Well, to start off, Selenium is an open source tool which can be used for automating these web browser tests, right? And being open source, it has one advantage which most of the other tools in the market today, they don't have. And let's say 90% of the tools today are not open source, at least the most popular ones. Take for example Test Complete or Qtp or RFT and RunnerX. All these tools are paid, so you need to have a license to use these tools. That's the biggest problem that companies are facing. Well, at least medium to small size companies. The MNCs, they can probably afford licensed versions of software and these testing tools, okay, but not startups and not these medium-sized companies where where business is pretty new and they cannot afford to spend on a lot of things. So for them, Selenium is the number one option. But is that the only reason? Definitely not. There are other factors also, especially the feature set that you can see here. The programming languages that Selenium supports compared to other tools, the web browsers that the Selenium scripts can be run on, and of course the operating systems on which the tests can be performed. Let me start by talking about the programming languages. First of all, Selenium scripts can be written in any of the languages of Java or Python or Perl, PHP, Ruby or C#. And well, the thing is, because it supports so many languages, a lot of developers or a lot of programmers from all these domains can contribute and they can start off and make a career in Selenium. This cannot be said for some of the other tools. Take for example Qtp. Qtp, for working on Qtp, you need to have VB script skills, right? So how common is that? Look at the odds. If you want to implement, see, as a company, if you want to first of all implement Qtp, you got to pay for the license, and then you have to hire people who are skilled in VB script. So you are very short of options, right? And even other tools like RFT, I think RFT needs C# skills and probably one more language. But yeah, that's the problem, right? The company needs to pay for the license and then get people who are skilled in that. But Selenium just beats all of them because it has a wide pool of people who can contribute to testing. And besides that, it's open source, so companies don't need to pay for implementing Selenium in their company. Another advantage with Selenium is that it supports cross-browser testing. Whatever tests that you want to run, you can run them either on Chrome or on Firefox or on Safari or Internet Explorer, and they can also be run on either Windows, Linux or Mac. So I think these three are the operating systems which I'm aware of at least. So there's no reason why you cannot or you might not want to implement Selenium compared to other tools. And rightly so, it's actually the most popular tool in the market. And even the people who are interested in learning Selenium, that number is also skyrocketing. And to prove that fact, you can see this slide, right? This trend that you see here, I've picked this up from a very popular job portal called IT Jobs Watch. And the link is right here. You can look this up and find out, is this true? You don't need to take my word for it. I just picked this up today, and this is what I got to see. If you see over the years, especially from 2008, that's when Selenium started picking up, and this is where it's reached. That's almost 3 times more, right? It's risen by threefold in the last couple of years. Same thing with the salary trend over here. Right, so these are things which which would at least I can hope that you can take my word over here. If you don't, then you can probably just Google up this place and find out how relevant Selenium jobs are and how trending the Selenium job postings are, right? But yeah, anyways, enough talk about Selenium. Let's talk about let me talk about the different suite of tools that we have in Selenium. Okay, because Selenium is not just one. There are three different flavors here. There is WebDriver, there is RC, and there is IDE, as you can see over here on the screen. But there's one tool called Selenium Grid, which I'm not discussing because that is not that's not a complete testing tool. That is something that's going to be used along with WebDriver for deploying tests on other hosts. So let's talk about only these three tools over here, and let's compare them according to the feature set. So right now WebDriver is the most popular and most used, and that's because it has a programming interface where you can script your own logic, whatever whatever website you want to go to, whatever elements that you want to locate over there and perform tests on, that can be done with ease. So that was the same case with even Selenium RC, okay, but not with IDE. So first thing is that Selenium RC is an outdated version. So right now in today's market, we don't have RC anymore. It's depreciated, and it's taken over by WebDriver. That's the more recent one, and that there's a big history why RC was deprecated, and that was because it was following something called as the same origin policy, which it had to satisfy. And according to the same origin policy, we cannot perform tests on web pages which are or websites which are not from your own domain. So if a tester had to perform tests on any page, then the JavaScript he has to inject in that page, it has to be in the same domain, right? So that is one major drawback, and because of that, Selenium RC was implementing a Selenium RC server to do this, and because of this reason, it was very slow. It was very hard and very tough on the systems, performance wise. So the eventual version of Selenium was WebDriver, which implemented in a different way. Here we don't have a separate server which is doing the deployment for us. It's injecting the code with the help of a virtual server, right? So that's the benefit with WebDriver. And speaking of Selenium IDE, it's not a programming tool. It's basically a record and playback tool. Okay, so it's a Firefox plugin which can be installed, and with the click of a button, whatever tests that you perform on the browser, that would be recorded, and that can be played back at any point of time. And when we say played back, that playback is with respect to the testing. You can test it, and when you play it back, whatever actions you performed, those would be mimicked, and those actions would be performed on the browser again. And because of this, a lot of programming effort would reduce. But then it's not the solution to testing, because a lot of complicated logic cannot be done, like scrolling up, scrolling down. That's a little tough. And for dynamic web applications, especially the ones like Facebook or Amazon or other sites, it's not possible to use IDE, because it cannot locate the element in the right amount of time, and if it cannot locate the element, then it would simply throw an error. So that's why IDE also has a very small market. It was well designed for a different purpose altogether though. But what you need to worry about is WebDriver. WebDriver is that's the main tool that's being used today, and let's concentrate on that. So test case creation, I again spoke about. You design the programming logic. With IDE, of course, you play back the test, and the browsers that is supported by WebDriver is these four web browsers, that is of Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and Internet Explorer. Opera is also supported by WebDriver. And when it comes to RC, right now it does not support these browsers, because right now it's deprecated. So I've not put any of those logos there. But back in the time, it could support cross-browser testing, right? And then in terms of in case of IDE, it supports only Firefox. So you cannot have a Chrome plugin for IDE and perform tests. You can export that test and execute that in probably some other browser. You can record the whole test in Firefox and then export that test and then load it into either Eclipse or any other IDE, programming IDE if you want, and execute it on some other browser like Chrome or Internet Explorer. But you cannot design it in other browsers other than Firefox. So that's the problem with IDE. And performance wise, WebDriver is fast, RC is slow for the reason I told you earlier, because of the same origin policy, and IDE is also fast. Right away you can record your test and you can execute them right away. So that's the comparison of the different tools in Selenium, right? They are called the Selenium suite of tools. So these the three that you see here and grid, these four together form the Selenium suite of tools. And then now coming to this part of Selenium, where a lot of people ask the question, can they learn Selenium no matter what the background they are from? Well, the answer is you need to have basic programming knowledge. Okay, you have to have some knowledge, because at the end of the day you're going to be scripting and you're going to be doing a lot of programming, right? So you're going to be using either Java or Python mostly, and for that, without programming knowledge, you cannot be a tester. But there again, having said that, it's not too difficult to get into this domain, because learning Java, you need limited knowledge of Java to learn Selenium and implement the codes, and it's going to be a little bit of an effort to learn, and once you're done with that, you can become a tester, right? And once that question is answered, they ask how can I change my profession? Would it be right if I jump to automation testing? Because right now I'm a manual tester, or I'm a mainframe professional, or I'm a support engineer, or all these kind of questions come up. Well, the answer again is yes, you all can, as long as you're ready to learn a little bit of programming concepts. There's something that's needed, but when you're done with that, it's well and good, right? Even freshers, for that matter of fact, they can get into the IT world through the testing domain. So freshers who are straight out of college, they can that's basically the entry point into the IT world for a lot of people, right, who are from a non-technical background. So these are the most important questions, and these are the things that I wanted to tell you about Selenium. So now that I've told you this, let's straight away execute. Let me show you a demonstration of one simple Selenium code, okay? And for that, I need to switch over to my Eclipse. So please acknowledge if you can see my Eclipse IDE over here. Okay, so I suppose the screen is visible. So this is my Eclipse IDE where I've scripted my code. This is a Selenium code, and on a high level, let me tell you what this code is going to do. First, I'm going to navigate to Amazon.in, and then I'm going to wait for a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to use the search box to type in Nike shoes. Okay, I'm going to search for some of the results, and then I'm going to fetch the page title of that particular web page. All right, and then I'm navigating to facebook.com, and I'm going to try to log in to facebook.com through Selenium, and I'm feeding my email ID, and then I'm feeding my password. Okay, and then I'm going to click on the login button, and finally, when I'm done with that, I'll just end my browser. This is what is going to happen on a high level. Now let me explain each and every part of this code. Before we even start by navigating to Amazon.in, we have to first set our browser driver, because with Selenium WebDriver, for each and every browser that you want to perform your tests on, you have a different browser driver. Okay, so for Selenium, for Chrome, we have something called as the Chrome driver. For Firefox, we have something called as the Gecko driver, and same thing for Internet Explorer and for the other tools for Safari. Okay, so I want to perform my test on Chrome, so I've used Chrome driver. I've instantiated an object of Chrome driver, and I've said that Chrome driver the .exe file is present over here. So this is the file that is going to be used for carrying out my my Selenium test, and I've used the system.setProperty function to say where that's present. Okay, it's present in this folder, and then I'm just printing a simple command which says, "Hi, welcome to Edureka's YouTube live session." Okay, and then moving on, the next part of the code is all about navigating to Amazon.in. So I can have any website or any web page over here, and the function I have to use to reach that web page is driver.get. Okay, so driver is what I'm instantiating over here, and I'm saying get this particular URL. Okay, and I've just used an implicit wait function over here, basically to tell my WebDriver to wait for some time before the page completely loads, because sometimes because of internet internet being slow, your test cases would fail. So it's important that you also give some kind of a timeout before some action is performed. So that's what I've done here. I've used the driver.manage.timeouts command for that purpose, and I've said implicitly wait for 5 seconds. And this would be executed only in case my web page is taking time to be loaded. If it's loaded, then this command would not be executed, and my execution would continue with the next command. Okay. And in the next part, what I'm doing is I'm first of all locating the search bar in Amazon, and the search bar I'm locating it with the help of this function by.id. So in Selenium WebDriver, we have 8 different element locator techniques. Okay. Now since search bar is an element, the ID that it has is this one. I'll later on I'll show you how to fetch the ID of any element. Okay, but just keep in mind that you use the element locator technique to locate the element, and then you send whatever keys you want. If you want to type in something there, you can send it. You can just type it over here, and that would be sent. Okay, now since once I've sent Nike shoes, I have to do the click operation, right? That's what I'm doing here. I'm doing a driver.findElement function. I'm implementing this, and I'm using the XPath locator technique to find that element. So XPath is another popular element locator technique, and it's probably the most stable one. So in the industry, this is the most preferred one because this is something that's not going to change. Okay. It has the absolute path of where the element is present in the web page. So that's why XPath is the preferred one. If you want to learn more, then I can, of course, we have our Selenium course. So over there, I'll go into details about this. But over here, I'm just going to talk about this in brief. And what I'm doing to that particular element which is located is the click operation. So I've used the click function for that. And again, when that button is clicked, I'm using a driver.manage.timeouts function to again tell my browser driver to wait for 10 seconds before it continues execution. If you don't want to use this, you can also use an alternative, that is thread.sleep. So thread.sleep is not a very effective way to implement a wait in your Selenium WebDriver, but the thing is, it does the job for you. It's going to basically ask my execution of the code to pause for 5000 milliseconds. Okay, so that's why there's 5000 here. 5000 milliseconds is basically 5 seconds. So I'll wait for 5 seconds, and it will continue with the execution. And the next command that I've executed is that of driver.navigate.back. So what this would do is it would go back to the previous page, because at this point of time, I've typed Nike shoes and I've clicked and gone to a new web page. Okay, so from there, I'm going back to Amazon.in with the help of the driver.navigate function. And then I'm just fetching the page title, and I'm storing that inside my variable title. And then I'm basically printing whatever title is retrieved. I'm using the system.out.println function to display that title. Okay. And then comes the driver.navigate to facebook.com. So this is the same function that I implemented over here. I'm saying just go to facebook.com, and here I'm first of all locating 3 elements. Okay, those 3 elements are those of email ID, password field, and the login button. Okay, and those 3 elements I'm locating with the help of name field. So name is another locator technique. It's one of the 8 techniques. So the name in case of the email field is email itself, and in case of the password field, it's again pass. Okay, and for the login button, I'm using the .id function, and this is the ID of the login button. Okay, and in case of my email ID and password fields, I'm sending abc@gmail.com, and then I'm sending the password as abc123. Now this, of course, this is going to fail. Okay, but that's my whole point. I don't want to log into facebook.com. I'm just going to show you how that process happens. And then, of course, the login button, once it's located, I'm using a click function to click on the login button. And again, I've implemented a wait function, and then I'm saying driver.quit. So the driver.quit would end my browser instance. So this is how Selenium testing happens in general. And this is a very basic code, but there are a lot of other things that you can do. If you have a web application, right, then you would have thousands of test cases. This is just one test case, because an extensive web application would have a lot of functionalities, and there are a lot of frameworks also which is used to optimize testing on those web pages. And those frameworks are those of data driven testing, keyword driven testing, there is a hybrid driven testing, and then there's one popular design pattern called the page object model. So these are other topics which you can learn. There you can go back to the Selenium playlist to go through these videos. So these were videos which I recorded a couple of months back. So you can go through them if you want to learn something more detailed about Selenium. In this session, of course, I'm not going to cover that. So I can just quickly run this program and show you how the demo works. Okay, so this is the run option over here in Eclipse IDE. So when you click on that, a new instance of Chrome will open. So that happens here. I've navigated to Amazon.in. Have a look at the search bar, right? So it types Nike shoes. So these are all things which I'm not doing manually, right? So Selenium is doing that for me. I've written the script. Okay, so it's the wait operation which is delaying the execution. So that's what we wanted. Then I have to navigate to facebook.com, and then there goes my email ID and then password, and then driver quits. So that's how simply a Selenium script works. And let me just pull this up and show you that my test case has passed. So demo test is the name of my test. You can see it. You can see my name here. It's the name of my method. Okay, it says it was the only test that was run, and that's passed. 0 failures, 0 skips. And along with that, it also printed 2 lines for me. I initially said welcome to Edureka's YouTube live session. That line got printed, and then it also fetched the page title. So the page title at that point of Amazon's web page was online shopping, and shop online for mobiles, books, watches, shoes, and more. Right, so this was the page title. So these are things which I have retrieved with the help of WebDriver, and I've displayed over here. So this is how basic Selenium script runs, and this pretty much brings an end to my session, right? So let me just open up my slide and conclude today's session. So guys, these were the topics that we discussed. We spoke about the need for automated testing. I spoke about what is Selenium. I said who can learn Selenium, and then I gave you a demonstration of how to execute a basic Selenium script. So guys, thank you for being a part of the session, and happy learning. Thank you guys.